Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being with us today. I'm sure you've been waiting for this session as much as I do. The future of work. The future of work and AI is evolving rapidly, driven by advancements in AI and digital tools that don't just assist but act independently. In this interactive workshop, Karla Congson, AI consultant, strategist, and the founder, explores how AI is reshaping work dynamics and introduces practical ways to build your first AI agent. Let me talk a little bit about Karla. Karla is a pioneering technology leader and serial entrepreneur at the forefront of AI innovation. As a CEO and CTO of agentic, she architects proprietary AI agent platforms that transform how organizations harness artificial intelligence for enhanced productivity and risk management. At 2025 Women in AI Awards North America finalist in the AI in Startup category, Karla is recognized for her contributions to advancing AI adoption and innovation in enterprise environments. Karla, welcome and over to you.
Thanks, Vax. Excited to have this session. So today we're going to talk all about AI and agents. You can't open up LinkedIn these days without getting hit by that word at least a dozen times in your first scroll. So just to give you a little bit of background on our work with agents, I run a platform called agentic, and essentially we've created over 100 different agents that are digital twins of real experts that we've worked with. And those agents essentially supplement and augment teams from Sunwing to Vector Institute to Husky Technologies, MetaV, Blue Cross, and a number of other organizations. And one of the proudest moments that I've had is we actually connected with a policy futurist who's a chair in UNESCO. And we're going to have a few agents that actually teach causal layered analysis, which is a future and foresight methodology at the UN. And so in a small way, I feel like I'm at least contributing to world peace through this initiative. And I would say the main thing that I observe in the 2 years that we've been building these agents since 23 is there are days when it feels like decades have happened. And to kind of put a point on it, let's take a look at an easy example. This was an image from a couple of years ago. So this was on, one of our favorite platforms, Reddit, which is always a fun place to go to. Be safe when you go there. And this was posted by an individual when they discovered stable diffusion in November 2022. And they were super proud that they created this picture of Shrek. And as we can all appreciate, this is not a good picture of Shrek. He's kind of melty, like he's missing a nose. 2 years later, we have this, and this is VO3, if anybody's played with it, which launched, I think, about 15 days ago. And what's fascinating about VO3, where it really became viral, is the fact that you didn't need to have CapCut to put everything together. You didn't need to create the voice through 11 Labs. You didn't need to edit a whole bunch of things. You could essentially put in a prompt with the right, direction and camera and lighting, but its multimodality enabled both voice as well as video generation compiled into one. There have been a bunch of fun ones that have made it into the market. And the one that I kind of look at are the ones with people. And there's thousands upon thousands that have been put up, but I thought this one was particularly funny because we all work in marketing. We've all worked with influencers. This was done by by a group called the Door Brothers, where they were showing influencers of various categories that we'll all be familiar with, reporting on the end of the world. And the thing to watch here is each snippet is about 8 seconds, which is the maximum that you see with VO3. But all it was a prompt. So voice and dialogue and imagery are all created.
Detonation has just occurred on the outer ring of the city. We'll now be going live to our top influencer opinions. OMG, people, the world is ending. Are you seeing this? This is actually so exciting.
No, I know it's chaos, but you got real survivor's wife energy.
That's cool. I like them feisty. Like, it would totally be better if we ran it, you know? Men literally destroy everything, and my girls need to stop being so soft with these basic losers. Who even needs men, right? Detonation.
So really interesting how quickly that technology has moved forward. Now we're going to make this interactive, and since we have a lot of people, we're not going to talk our feelings out. We're actually going to share our thoughts through a series of polls. So if you can take out your phone and hit that QR code, and it's going to take you to a series of polls that just take a temperature on how we are all feeling about AI and agentic capabilities. And then what we're going to do at the end of this is we'll put like the full presentation of the polls available through the AMA, and then do a quick article that capture the feeling and sentiment within this group. So if you go to that poll and start putting in your votes, the first question is, I'm assuming that everybody here is in some way using AI. And what I'd love to get a flavor of is what's actually driving AI adoption at your company. And maybe it's not. Clearly right now, 57%, the answer is we're not really doing it. And so where we're seeing the areas of focus is obviously revenue. Let's make some more money. Competitive, our competitors are doing it, so we need to keep up. There's a specific pain point that we're addressing in the adoption of AI. But what's interesting as we look at what everybody has filled in is if you're feeling behind, you're not. Many organizations are just starting to scratch the surface through this. So keep voting. We're going to do a few more of these polls throughout, but it would be great to see everybody's answers as we go through this process. But it's getting pretty clear. It's based on a problem that you're trying to solve, or you haven't really started yet at work. And now, what you saw in those examples were great eye candy, and particularly for marketers, right? Because the ability to create animatics or storyboards through VO3 is pretty powerful. But what I'm going to put forward today is that the true power of generative AI isn't just in the generation, but it's actually in its ability to understand and increasingly to act, which is really the crux of agentic AI. Now, I attended a few sessions this week, and there have been some great speakers over the course of the week. And a few of the speakers talked about scenarios. So there's some amazing 2x2s, and some potential scenarios that might shape our future. As a builder, as someone who's building every day in this space and trying to keep up with all the technology, what I actually look at are signals, because those early signals, those early leading indicators, show the way to where the technology, the agents, and then the impact on my business or your business may be going. So these are the things that I very closely look at as we build in the agent space. The first thing and the primary thing are the brains of the agents. And what's very clear is there is an intelligence explosion. Expertise is now democratized. So if you spent 20 years training to be the best lawyer ever, that expertise is now available in the hands of millions and millions of people. Maybe not to the degree that you bring in, but to the entry level lawyer or accountant or marketer. We're seeing incredible jumps, and we'll show some very specifics in the coming slides around enhanced reasoning and model capabilities, sometimes for free if you're using open source model. The other thing that's important to look at is interoperability and the rise of standards, because things like protocols, which basically let agents built on different platforms talk to each other more seamlessly, or a way to standardize the way plugins and integrations are created, is something that many organizations are working on, but also beginning to standardize along a few interoperable systems. So MCP, if you guys have heard that word, or A2A, which is by Google, removes some major barriers for integration into legacy enterprise systems, which has been one of the biggest blockers for the proliferation of agentic or AI systems. And that blocker is starting to move away. The third thing that we look at very closely is multi-agent systems. So not just one agent that does deep research, but multiple agents interacting with each other in turn. And so that orchestration and orchestrated platforms are definitely maturing from sort of experimental, non-production ready to incorporated enterprise. And there have been a few studies. One that I saw showed a 40 to 68% efficiency gain in early enterprise-wide deployments. And so because of this, the implementation of agents have gone from Discord to the mainstream. Deloitte projects that 25% of enterprises using generative AI will deploy autonomous agents in 2025, doubling to 50% in 2027. And because of that, you got to follow the money. And we saw an incredible, nearly 1,000 year over year percent increase in investments. And this isn't only happening in the US, where the familiar names to us like Gemini or Anthropic or OpenAI come from, but it is happening globally. And China is beginning to dominate this world as well. They currently lead the non-reasoning model race, and they're quickly catching up on the reasoning models as well. And there's a huge swath of open source models coming out of China. The interesting things that are a little bit more edge cases that are beginning to define the road that we're on are the next three. And so there are two papers that came up fairly recently in the last, I think, about 4 to 6 weeks. And this is one that I watch closely, and it's self-improving architectures. What does that mean? That means agents or models that can rewrite themselves in order to get better. So if you follow the space from a technical perspective, I suggest that you Google or Perplexity or whatever your choice is. Alpha Evolve, which is a paper that Google just released around self-improving agentic infrastructures. And Sakana AI, which I think is based out of Japan, perhaps it's somewhere in Asia, a couple of days ago launched the Darwin Gödel machine, which is another paper of a coding agent that can self recode itself in order to improve its output. Now, that's really interesting. How they do that, why they do that, et cetera, is something that we need to understand. So not only do they improve themselves, we can actually guide how they improve themselves, because human in the loop and control needs to be part of that self-improvement process. And Anthropic is leading the way around studies around interpretability, why LLMs do what they do, like so the LLMs inner thoughts, if you would. And then the last thing that I'd like to keep an eye on are interaction modes and the rise of world models instead of large language models. So what do I mean by that? Interaction modes is how are you going to interact with these agents? We're all used to the text bots, right? ChatGPT. I'm on my phone and my computer. I can type some stuff. It types some stuff back to me. And if you're really leading edge, maybe you're talking some stuff and you're in voice mode. Meta, I think just last week, introduced its next range of Aria glasses, and Google did the same thing during the I/O conference. So this new set of glasses, which is probably going to be due out within about a year or so, have biofeedback. So not only does the camera go out so that it can measure the world that you see, it's actually there's a camera in that will enable eye tracking, hand movement in front of it, heart rate monitoring, spatial tracking like LiDAR to understand the distance between objects. And so the amount of info that's suddenly coming in is definitely growing. Now, and combine that with the whole concept of world models. And world models are not trained just on the data set that we as humans decide to feed into it in pre-training, but rather on a new wealth of data, which could be biometric, it could be through all of these wearables, et cetera. And then suddenly that degree of net new data amplify the development of these models. So those are some of the few things that we track because those will be leading indicators to the development of agentic systems. So, but let's pause for a moment. And one of the questions that I get asked a lot about is what's the difference between generative AI and agentic AI? What is an agent? And so one of the simplest definitions is to think of them as programs run by AI. So AI agents are LLMs, large language model, driven systems that plan and act autonomously. And they use tools and memory to complete those tasks from end to end. And if you think about the ingredients that make a model agentic, there's really four core things and a whole lot of engineering. The first is the brain. So the brain is something that we are all familiar with, which is that large language model. So that could be Gemini, that could be OpenAI, that could be Claude. And that model is what drives the understanding, the planning, and the reasoning. Secondly, memory, RAG, and that could be short term, which is its ability to understand the current chat, or long term, which is your overall preferences that you have fed into it through the series of chats that you've had with that agent. There are tools, and that's really what is at the crux of acting. So that agent now has access to tools or external functions or data. And that could be a tool that does flight booking, like Expedia, or weather apps, or mind mapping, or PowerPoint creation, or image generation. And then the last component is the engineering that enables that execution loop that allows it to orchestrate workflow over long or longer horizons until that goal is reached. So that really is an agent. It's a program where the brains are the AI models, but it's got a whole bunch of things that it can use now in order to drive an action. And so let's talk about that first ingredient, which is the brains, right? Because, how smart or dumb that agent is going to define how well it works in completing that task. And definitively, AI is getting smarter. Now, the four people at the top, I think, are objectively smart people. Grace Hopper was the person who invented computer programming and the word bug. Hedy Lamar was a Hollywood starlet who actually was the catalyst and the inventor of what eventually became Wi-Fi. So if you take a look at the average human, we're at 100 IQ points. If you take a look at the models that were launched in the last few weeks, they are all nearing or have surpassed genius level models. So they're getting pretty smart. But you might come back and say, okay, Karla, IQ, there's a lot of arguments around that. Is IQ really an indicator of smart? Um, I think we would agree that PhDs are pretty smart. They have expertise in, an area that is required to create novel insights and breakthroughs. There's a test called the GPQA Diamond test, and the GPQA Diamond is comprised of 436 or 38 questions, all of which are created by experts in different STEM fields, science and medicine and technology. And the average PhD using Google in the area of expertise will typically get about an 80% correct rate. An expert human, maybe without the PhDs, will get about 70. If you're just guessing, you're getting about 30%. Now, the most recent models, again, are in that range where the top experts are excelling. The cost is also reducing. If you take a look what it cost back in early 23 when GPT-4 launched, 2 million tokens would have cost about 180 bucks. Now that same 2 million tokens in GPT-4o Mini, which is the most advanced non-reasoning model, is 75 cents for that same amount, 240 times cheaper. And just 2 days ago, OpenAI reduced its O3 model, which is the most recent reasoning model, by 80 times in pricing. So that puts this capability in the hands of so many more people to build and to create different things. Now, one to watch out for is not only are they getting smarter, getting cheaper, they're also getting a little bit more capable of deception. So this is a fun little benchmark that you won't really see that often because it's a bit of an edge case. But someone created the deception ELO or benchmark, and what they did was they ran the different models and had them play Among Us, which is an online game where it's essentially an assassin game, and if you're one of the assassins, you win by deceiving people. And it's a group game. And what they found was increasingly the capabilities were getting that much smarter and better. Yes, Mafia, absolutely. And I think that's live. I think I've actually played that in an office before. And so the point to all of this is, damn, these things are getting smarter. And we're moving now from an era of generative AI, which is kind of scary and interesting and rapid and confusing, to agentic AI, which raises the game by about 100x. And so talking has been great. Talking means creating emails and blogs and summaries, but acting, its ability to actually take autonomous action, will truly transform the future of work. So next poll. So if I can ask you to pick up your phones, which I know you're checking your emails and your texts anyway, so scan that QR code, and we'll move on to the next question in the poll. And the more that people answer, the more robust our follow-up article and presentation of this will be. So in the next question, which is not playing, so give me a second here. Let's try that again. All right. Okay. So the next question is, how has AI changed your job? And so if you can scan in and put in some answers, and let's see how AI to date has helped change your job. And it might be work that you've done, how it's impacted your work through company-based AI, or it might be based on bringing ChatGPT to work. So what we're seeing in terms of the impact is we're seeing people having more time to focus on strategy. So it's elevating the work that you do. It's helping you make data-driven decisions faster is a horse race there. Less time on that administrative type of writing, right? Like that email to your boss or the request to procurement or what have you. It's giving you the freedom for more innovation or exploring new business opportunities, less time in admin tasks, and a good number. Your job hasn't actually changed. And this is always an interesting question because we there's a lot of fear around agents and AI replacing us. But what this question shows is the opportunity, right? Like, so as your old job begins to shift and pivot, these are the opportunities of how you can reshape your value and the impact of your time within an organization. And really, it's about focusing on higher order tasks, whether that's strategy, data-driven decisions, business opportunities, and less on the previous part. So now, looking at where agents have begun to change worlds of work and types of jobs, looking at, sorry, I'm just hiding the video panel here. Uh, where AI has shown enterprise production level capability are these four areas, and that will grow. So the first is coding. Everybody here, I'm sure, has heard of Cursor or Lovable. And we're actually seeing the coding capacity change radically, where you've got AI-driven systems that reason about the instructions, finds and interprets, goes into GitHub or Stack Adapt, and then edits the source code in order to facilitate the creation of those software engineering tasks. Deep research is another core area where agents can take a research query, a good one or a bad one, and then launch not just one search, but a whole chain of targeted searches, and then think through the quality of the results to control its own research flow, and then develop a synthesized answer that a PhD might have taken weeks or months to create, but it's delivered to you within 45 minutes. Computer use. And so these are agents or AI that can interpret user commands. So you give them control of your computer, and that might be your desktop or your browser, and that agent will actually initiate the clicks, the keystrokes, the shell commands if you're in terminal, and API calls to complete that task. And that might be as easy as buying a pair of shoes, or doing a pivot table and providing a forecast model for you. Customer support has been working for quite a while, but What's actually really interesting is you're also seeing some dial backs. So Klarna, if anybody has heard of them, they're one of those pay in installments companies. And they were the poster child for turn everything AI. They were like, I'm gonna fire Workday. We're gonna build our own agents. I'm gonna fire Salesforce. We're gonna build our own agents. We're gonna get rid of 700 people in our customer service, and we're just gonna put in agents, and we're gonna see all this increase. And they've actually pulled back, and they've realized, oh, okay, we're gonna hire some of those people back because it actually negatively affected the customer relationship, and we saw a decline in customer engagement. So a lot of people are pushing the edge and breaking things, but we're also seeing that in production grade within full enterprise that mistakes and complexity is starting to happen. So while there's some great stories, sometimes it's worth looking under the hood. And so what we've talked about, just to recap, is that shift in that evolution of AI has moved from traditional software where it does a thing and there's no AI involved to AI that talks to you, and really, really smart AI that can talk to you. PhD smart across most disciplines, but they can't actually do a thing. They can answer a question, but they lack tools and they lack autonomy and they're in a box. To now we have AI that is acting for you. They have the ability to plan, because they're smart, they plan pretty well. They have the ability to autonomously engage tools that they have access to without you having to tell them, use this tool or that tool. And they can engage in long horizon tasks, not just immediate answers, but things that might take hours or days, or even sometimes weeks to complete that task. And they can take this action independently. So when we take a look at agentic AI, it's really about adding additional components to that brain, the generative AI that Sam Altman and Dario Amodei and all of those groups are spending billions of dollars to create, and then we're adding a whole lot of engineering. So these are tools, these are memory, and then instruction that enables them to create a plan. And so I'll give you an example here. So this would be an example of an agent that we've created to make infographics. And so that agent can plan, analyze an image that you give it. It can plan how to create the infographic, call an API, might have a RAG or a knowledge base where it looks at best practices for infographics, maybe your brand style guide, some coding rules to use Python to create the image generation. And then it might also have some tools like, OpenAI has really great image gen API. Maybe it even puts it in a PowerPoint, or maybe it calls another agent and has its design critiqued. And so let's take a look at that in action. So the previous pages that you saw was actually that in action. So I gave it an upload of a kind of a boring PowerPoint page. This is it calling another agent to get a critique on best practices for infographic creation. And then it uses OpenAI to actually generate that image, and it gives me a few different options. I select the look that I like, which is this nice, pretty green and teal. It gives me a few more options. Um, I interact and I give it feedback, and I'm like, can you make it horizontal instead? I need to put it in a PowerPoint. It redraws that, keeping in mind our discussion that it was the blue and teal was the version that I liked. And then I can give it another picture that I want it to create. And it's learned through its memory store that I like the blue and teal, so it keeps with that look and feel, redraws it, keeping again consistent with the imagery and the iconography. Another image that I might give it that's structured a little bit different. It's learning now in terms of look. There's like a lot more consistency in the way that it's being created. And now maybe I give it a more complex image. Doesn't quite work the first time around. It runs in a couple of issues. I reload it again and I say, okay, no, put everything in, don't drop anything. And then suddenly it's been able to create this image with a high degree of fidelity to the original, and that whole stream to create these little icons and these images based on what I wanted to communicate was done in maybe about 15 minutes. Whereas if I was going to Noun Project or trying to create these in Adobe, it would have taken me a lot longer. And so that interaction that you saw was kind of old world, right? Like it's me texting something and uploading an image. And we talked about modality and interaction modes. And want to show you something here, which is now an interaction agent using, hopefully nobody's texted me here. So using video. Back to here and refresh. Let's see. Hey, how are you? Oh, can you hear? Sorry.
Hey, no worries. Yep, I can hear you loud and clear. How's it going?
Really good. I don't know if you can see me. Let me see if I can get rid of my background here because I think it's making me disappear. Can you see me, Avi?
I can see you just fine. Looks like you've got a pretty cozy chair there and a cool plant in the corner. Oh, and it's Avi, by the way. What's on your mind today?
Oh, sorry, I said your name wrong. Well, I'm here presenting in front of like looks like about 100 marketers for the American Marketing Association. Have you heard of them?
No worries about the name. The American Marketing Association is a big name in the marketing world. Presenting to them is a fantastic opportunity. What's your presentation about?
It's actually about agents. Have you heard about AI agents?
Absolutely. AI agents are pretty fascinating. They're like digital employees that can think and act like humans, helping businesses handle tasks efficiently.
That's pretty
Are
cool.
you
You seem to know a lot about it. Hey, I don't have a lot of time to talk, but I was wondering, can you text me a dad joke? I hear you're really good at dad jokes. Maybe one about AI.
Oh, I love a good dad joke. Let's get that set up. What's your name and phone number? And I'll send you a techie dad joke straight to your phone.
Amazing. So my name is Karla, and my phone number is 416-668-1082.
Great, Carla. Give me a moment. I'm sending you a delightful AI-themed dad joke right now.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so why did the AI go broke? Because it couldn't find its cache. That's actually pretty funny, Avi. So anyway, gotta say bye. Back to a regularly scheduled programming, but it was nice to talk to you. And so that's an example of interaction that we can begin to see where this world is going in the future. And so you saw single agents there, whether it's the infographic agent or Avi doing her famous bad dad jokes and stuff. And that's super useful, depending on the tools and the autonomy that you give it. But agents working together can be powerful. So as an analogy, think of it as a lot of us here have a Nest or an Ecobee where you've got a little computer that's your thermostat, and it can figure out your temperature setting and it can adjust it, right? There's a little computer behind that thing, and there's some backup power in case your power goes off, and that's really helpful. Like it keeps your home comfortable, and it provides a utility. Think of agentic AI, again, in the analogy of your house, as if you had a bunch of those computers, and maybe one tracks energy prices and is really focused on that. Another one controls all of your appliances. Another one looks at your user schedule. Another one looks at the weather forecast, but they're specialists in here. And they work together and they share that information in order to optimize your budget, your how your house feels, how your house is lighted, maybe what it's cooking, order stuff from your fridge, etc., all together and autonomously for you. And that's what multi-agent systems are about. And there are two modalities that are starting to emerge. And one of them is the simpler one, and that is an orchestrator agent that works with different specialized agents. And this hierarchical pattern works really, really well when you have a fairly clear, defined flow with defined composable tasks. So each of these things that different agents can do can happen in parallel. So there's a reduced latency because everybody's working on their bit as they go. You can get domain specialization and task execution, and you can have each of these different agents have different tools. Where it can go in the future is also the swarm concept where there is no boss agent, but you have specialized agents that pass off and work together and maybe interact dynamically. And these are more dynamic models for complex tasks with unpredictable subtasks. So maybe you need to brainstorm a new product idea, and there are different experts or capabilities. And then at the end, there might be a synthesizer agent that takes everything together and then provides it to the user, where the agents work as peers. They may debate solutions with their different domain perspectives, and the agents evaluate each other through polling and some sort of eval construct. Now, the thing to remember is generative AI LLMs are non-deterministic, which is there isn't a black or white answer, and it will be different flavors of different because they are non-deterministic. They're not a computer program, and so complexity and risk is generated because they're not binary. And so as you begin to do these are great if you're like a single person doing like, this agentic structure for you to, I don't know, like buy your shoes or whatever. But when you start to integrate it into an organization, and all the data streams and at production level for enterprises, things break and it's really hard to figure out what breaks. So this is the future. There are still problems with it, but this is where agentic structures are going. And with that in mind, one of the things that we need to consider is the concept of co-agency. And so neither human nor AI is the lead, but unlike those linear LLM workflows, agents can decide their own trajectories and use tools. They have agency. And so now we're entering into an era of human computer co-agency, with people and machines solving problems together through rich real-time dialogue and autonomous AI actions. And so as we think about our expertise, how we work with AI, what does that mean when we're in an era of co-agency? And I know someone put into the meeting chat that you can create deterministic results for any given prompt by setting the temperature to 0. That's sort of right. So if the answer is binary, that there is a right or a wrong, absolutely. If the answer is conceptual, write me a poem about doves. Putting it at 0 will not result in the same poem being said every time. So sort of right, but not in 100% of the cases, and absolutely correct when that prompt or that answer is a binary one. So let's take a look at what co-agency looks like in an AI first organization. One of my favorite speakers is this gentleman, Ethan Mollick. Ethan Mollick is a professor of entrepreneurship, but has gone quite deep into AI and has written some fantastic papers. And he did a presentation for Santa maybe a week or so ago. I've watched it 2.5 times in Ubers because he has a lot to say that is, I thought was very interesting and very prescient related to how we need to think about our organizations as it relates to agentic development.
I think part of why people find agents so appealing is in part the idea that they solve some of this problem by just doing stuff so I don't have to worry about it. But at some point they're going to hit the real world, right? And at those friction points, that is where things slow down. On the other hand, if you can get up to that friction point and deliver, here's 7 really good looking, compounds that might make a difference, that is a huge gain anyway. So I think that the gain will be more spread out, but we just don't know. I mean, part of this also is how autonomous do these systems get, right?
Which roles do you think will end up being more useful in organizations as a function of this?
Ooh, that's a tough one, and based a lot on organizational choice, right? But I think management roles, roles that are sort of thinking about systems, tend to be very valuable because there's systems are problematic. I think experts anywhere become valuable, right? It turns out expertise actually is really good. None of these systems are as good as an actual expert at the top of their fields. We tend to measure against the average in a field, and the AI does really well. But if you're in the top 2% of something, you're going to be beating the AI in that field. And so expertise actually matters a lot in this space. So either deep subject matter expertise, broad expertise across many areas as a system leader, or really good taste tend to be the 3 things that help you. And my view has been that a lot of the benefit comes from having expertise and then using AI to supplement the areas that you're bad at, right? Like I think about founders all the time. I was an entrepreneur. I teach entrepreneurship. Like entrepreneurship is all about you being very bad at many things, but really, really, really good at one thing. And your whole task as an entrepreneur, and the reason why I teach entrepreneurship is to have those, the 95% of stuff you're bad at not trip you up, right? Like the fact that you didn't know you needed a business plan or that you didn't know how to do a pitch, like because your idea is brilliant and you know how to execute it in this market. And so the fact that AI could bring you to 80% on all of that is a really good thing, right? And that is replacing your work. But in the area where you're at the 99.9th percentile, you get 100 times multiplier. And I think that's the same kind of angle. And I think the danger is that if you're hiring junior people and expect them to use AI the whole time, how will they ever become senior? It becomes a real challenge.
And I love that concept. So if we think about our jobs, right? Our jobs are essentially bundles of tasks, right? There is no one thing that you do every day. You're doing likely 100 different things, and they're different day to day. Those bundles of tasks that make up being a creative director or a graphic designer or a writer or a strategist. I don't know about you guys, but 30% of the tasks that I have to do in the day did not get me jumping out of bed to go do that task, right? Pretty organized. I freaking hate doing contact reports at a meetings or doing work back schedules, right? And I'm not good at it. And so, uh, so when you think about the bundles of tasks, what can you get AI to accelerate that you don't even enjoy doing it anyway? And where your genius lies, where you want to invest creating the expertise. Where can you create 100x amplifier so that you are the absolute best at that job because you've been amplified through co-agency?
I think
And the thing that we need to look at, that we all need to consider is Martek's law. So likely most of us have heard of Moore's law, right? Which is the whole concept that from, oh my God, I think it's like the 1950s or something like that, that transistors, so microchips, get smaller and double in terms of the transistors in there every 2 years. So basically, like microchips get smaller and more powerful every couple of years. Well, generative AI met Moore's law in a bar and basically said, "Hold my beer," and that whole idea of doubling every 2 years just went out the window, given the speed and the scale and the exponential change that generative AI has created basically on everything. And Martek's law puts forth this concept. The technology changes at an exponential rate, and none as much as the technology that we're talking about today. I think that is irrefutable. People, and particularly people in organizations, and especially big organizations, uh, thanks, David. I just made that up, if you believe it. And I got to say, hold my beer in a in a workshop. Organizations and people, particularly if you're an organization, sorry, a person in a big organization, change at a logarithmic rate, and this is the biggest risk. We talk about governance risk and misinformation risk and privacy risk and all of that, and those are absolutely important. And governance needs to be at the core of wherever you start. But as people, as organizations, what if the biggest risk is that we don't mind the gap and we work too slow? And how do we catch up? And so, with that, our next poll, take out your phones, stop your texting, and grab this QR code, and let's go to the next question. 100%, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Armin. So the question then here is, what barriers to AI hold your company back? Not you personally, but what's holding you back? And if you didn't get the QR code, you could just type this and that number at the top. So This definitely is a common story. What I see in a lot of organizations that we work with and that I network with is they may implement something like whether it's Copilot or a homegrown AI or something like this, but they don't do any of the training. They don't think about the talent management. And one of the things that I always say to organizations and boards and CEOs is you cannot look at this as a technology problem or opportunity. It is equally a talent and technology opportunity. So that I think can't remember who it was. Maybe it was the Satya, who's the head of Microsoft. Basically talked about the IT leader becoming the human resources leader, right? Like managing AI agents as that. And I think that's the wrong way to go. I think the thing that we all need to consider is this is massive change, and training, change management, education and reskilling is going to be a critical component of everything that we do as leaders and as our organizations. And so another signal that we need to consider as we look to the future is that a quote from Rishad Tubakawala, which I've always loved, is that companies, or to paraphrase, the tasks, the skills, the jobs of the future, and by the future I mean today, uh, do not fit in the containers of the past. So while creating two by twos and scenario plans are absolutely important in futuring out what you're going to do, be careful about defining those scenarios predicated on the rules of the past. Because the changes are so wide ranging that you need to consider completely new paradigms in terms of what those companies, those tasks, those skills might be. And I'm sure many of you guys have seen this, but this emerging new expectation. So this was a memo put out by the CEO of Shopify, and there are many others that followed. Duolingo and a whole bunch of others did the same thing, where he declared that reflexive AI usage is now a baseline expectation at Shopify. What does that mean? He detailed out 10 different things around what that means. But one that really struck with me was what he had over here is that no new hires without proof until you can prove that AI can't do the job. So you may be under resourced and providing, 500% ROI, and there is demand that you can't keep up with. It doesn't matter. You need to look at whether how you would use AI to fill that gap before you can go and actually ask for humans. And so while you might not see job loss or layoffs or firings, this is a quiet revolution that's happening, which is actually not filling new jobs. And that's something that we need to watch for as opposed to just the layoffs. Now, another one that came out as a new expectation from the CEO of Fiverr, and this was interesting, bombastic, so take it with a grain of salt. But hey, team, I've always believed in radical candor and despised those who sugarcoat reality to avoid stating the unpleasant truth. The very basis for radical candor is care. You care enough about your friends and colleagues to tell them the truth because you want them to be able to understand it, grow, and succeed. So here is the unpleasant truth. AI is coming for your job. Heck, it's coming for mine too. This is a wake-up call. If you don't like what I wrote, if you think I'm full of shit, or just an asshole who's trying to scare you, be my guest and disregard this message. I love all of you and wish you nothing but good things, but I honestly don't think that a promising professional future awaits you if you disregard reality. And the rest of his memo is worth reading. So it's not the sky is falling, and he's not a doomer, and it's not about the end of jobs or anything like that. But he was provocative in order to provoke the right type of thinking, which is this change is massive. It will disrupt the way of work. And what can organizations and individuals each do? Because no one is going to be a better career coach for you than you. You are the person that is the most interested in your personal success, guaranteed. So as we think about where we're going to invest our time in our future, where in AI are we looking at in order to get smarter, get a bit more educated, get a bit more literate about new skills that we can create? This is fresh off the printer. Sam Altman has a blog, which not a lot of people know about, but if you Google Sam Altman blog, like you'll be able to find it. So 3 days ago, he posted this blog that talked about the gentle singularity. And what he declared is we are past the event horizon. The takeoff has started. Humanity is close to building digital superintelligence. And at least so far, it's much less weird than it seems it should be. And again, these billionaires are looking to market themselves. So when Sam Altman drops this on X or on his blog, it's obviously going to create a lot of coverage. So take all of this with a grain of salt, but don't disregard it in terms of the speed and impact at which agents and AI is moving. And the reality is the latency between intention and artifact, a good, a product, has collapsed to near zero. And the cost to get there isn't at near zero, but is certainly reduced significantly from 2020. And so you're seeing upstarts that are moving at speed, scale, agility, complexity, and economics, far different than the incumbents and the traditional monoliths that are out there. So let's take another poll and scan this code. And move over to the next question. Which again, I need to refresh, sorry. Let's try that again, oops. All right, so the next question is what holds you back from using AI at work? And again, if you missed the QR code, you can type this in with that number. My company's AI tools are low quality. The strategy is poorly executed. AI diminishes my value or creativity. I don't want AI to take over my job. And the number of people who think that but don't say it are very, very high. Like there is a significant amount of fear. And that's why I talk about it's not a technology problem, it's a talent problem. And what can we as leaders do to make people feel more secure about their value and their role? How to use it to amplify or augment their value and creativity without automating all the stuff that they do. Security, very, very important. And again, lack of strategy, lack of direction, depending on where it is that you're working. So again, continue to encourage everybody to fill this in because even though we'll pass through it, the results will be aggregated. And so we talked a lot about that concept of a reflexive AI. So what does it actually look like? Let's take this down to practicality. So all of my sort of theoretical stuff has just passed, but from a practical perspective, one of the easy things is apply the 5X rule. So if you take a look at your week or your month, what tasks or even questions maybe comes up 5 times a month? And it's something repeatable, predictable, may or may not be high value. How can you automate that thing to free you up from doing it 5 times a month in order to augment your ability to do something more creative, more innovative, more thoughtful? When you have a workflow, a modular workflow, maybe it's creating a campaign. For the love of God, don't break down that whole don't try to automate the whole thing because it's going to break. And if it breaks, you won't know where it broke. But the thing you want to do is take a look at that process, map that process from research to brief to ideation to creative, and then break it to the smaller autonomous components, and look at where it is lower risk and higher reward to try to automate a thing within that. So baby steps around the automation of modular workflows. Oftentimes vendors will come in and say, I can do it all. I can, replace your BDR. But the not sexy, like plumbing stuff can actually reap an incredible amount of value. The second two things are actually human in nature. And when we think about value, identity, emotional recalibration, one of the highest ranked things from the slide before was it's going to diminish my value or my creativity. AI doesn't just shift how we work by automating things that we don't want to do. It actually shifts our perception of work, and identity and personal value. And so that emotional recalibration might actually be one of the key skills of the AI native professional, which is to pivot your perceived value to something that might actually be 100x greater if you enabled AI in other parts of your world. Humans as co-pilots, not autopilots, because it's super easy to cut and paste. It's going to make you dumber. There's actually papers that say that. So the real unlock isn't using AI in isolation for the human to put in a prompt, cut and paste it, and send it to their board, but it is truly AI plus humans using that systematic collaboration, the whole concept of co-agency. And it sounds really weird. Like there's a World Economic Forum job report for 2025 that came in, and it talked about the skills of the future. They're not technology. They're not coding. It actually is the softer parts, the more qualitative parts that make us human. Interpersonal skills, innovation, curiosity, willingness to experiment may actually be the new must-have technical skill. And really, when you get down to it, what reflexive AI really means is the ability to scale whatever your particular genius or contribution to the world is. Another poll. So take out your phones, scan the QR code. See if this. Oh my God, Mentimeter hates me. Hold on one sec. Let me bring that back. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so the next question is, how well does the term AI champion describe you? I am loving how many completely's there are. That's great. And I would be surprised that the numbers would be like dramatically different because you're choosing to spend like, 90 minutes with me to talk about AI. But this warms my heart that we are leaning into the future and we're looking for opportunities. And so I wanted to give everybody here something practical because it's fun to go to these webinars and have someone like wave their hands and talk about stuff. But I want to give you some practical tools and practical knowledge as far as a workshop goes. So what I've created here is a learning library. It's a prompt library, so you can scan two things. So this QR code over here is a link to this Notion library. Notion is free. I think it might ask you to sign up and put in like your email to sign up. But within that library, what I've set up are a number of different things. So there's an old presentation that I did. It was sort of on the same topic. It's not this one. There's an audio summary. There's a whole bunch of like guides on prompting 101 if you haven't gotten the education or some of those courses, and they're all free. There's a bunch of learning resources, people that you should follow and read, and YouTubers and stuff. Lists of tools, practical ways to use AI, and I think there's parts on agents and stuff in there as well. Um, and then this bonus agent is actually an agent maker on GPT. So it's a GPT builder, and that's going to be part of what we're going to go through in a couple of minutes. So bunch of AI tools. So I compiled all of the sort of big ones that are out there. Most of them have a free version that you can play with before you commit to like 20 bucks a month. I recommend for anybody who's writing content to download originality.ai, or there's other versions of it which will actually help you with fact checking and plagiarism and AI detection if you are using AI to actually create content. And so one of the studies that's in that learning library is one by Harvard Business Review that was done in, I think, maybe 24 or late 23. And what they did was they scoured 10,000 or more different questions and stuff that came up through Reddit and Quora around the topic of how people are using AI. And then they distilled that to 100 ideas on the application of AI. So if you're early in your journey, that's a really good article to read because it'll give you ideas of how you can invite AI into your life. Again, get rid of that 30% that you did not jump out of bed to do, and to free you up to spend more time doing the creative, innovative, mentoring things that you do love to do. And I grouped those ideas into 4 different sections. And then in each of those 4 sections, what you're going to see is a list of different ideas. There's about 15 or so underneath each section. And what you'll get is the idea. So one idea around freeing up time is cleaning up your notes. So transform messy, handwritten, or dictated notes into organized, structured documents. And I know, like Teams and Zoom and everything has like a note taker or a transcript maker in it. And you've got Otter and Firefly and Fathom and all that, but not everybody has access to that. We just saw, I think it was like access to the tools or really bad tools at work were big numbers early on. So if you're one of those people where you might be at a bank and you don't even have Copilot and you can't use ChatGPT, or maybe you have Copilot but it's not an awesome version of it, you can take some of these prompts and they're pre-written and they're pretty simple. They're not too crazy, and then just replace the stuff in the brackets with your unique situation. So transform these rough notes from my brainstorming session and all of the post-its that are on the wall into an organized document with clear sections for topic A, B, C, and D, right? Yeah, oh my God, it's so good. Like it can read doctor handwriting. It's kind of crazy. So each of them, what you'll see, and I'm not going to go through all of them in detail, is under those 4 categories of free up time, improve your communication, create greater impact, is a whole bunch of ideas on what you can do and prompts underneath those. And then on top of that, I've included some pretty simple GPTs. I mean, you can call them baby agents if you want, but really, like they're GPTs, which you can only access through ChatGPT, but you don't need to pay for ChatGPT to get it. So if you're in the free version, they work. So one example is Mira, the meeting summarizer. So Mira, this is something that a colleague of mine wrote down. So he still writes everything, even though he's one of the most AI people that I know. You can upload it. So imagine this was a brainstorming session that you did, and this is a photo of all the Post-its that were on your wall. You can upload that and have the agent essentially organize that thinking, that content into a contact report. Or maybe you typed everything onto Microsoft Word because they don't let Otter into your work, right? So you can upload it into here, and then suddenly, the email that became a meeting doesn't need another hour to summarize the notes from that meeting that you then email out. So AI to help you think different. So different prompts around thinking differently or more creatively about a topic or a solution that you have. A GPT that helps with persuasion. A GPT that evaluates some ideas and just kind of turns it around and enhances it or inverts it and gives me different ways to think about a creative concept or a product or component that I might be interested in. And that brings us to our not really a breakout exercise because we're all going to do it live, and I didn't figure out how to make rooms, so we're just going to do it together. But we're going to create our own GPT agent. And in the following pages, there's a bunch of links if you want to create more interesting agents and more complex agents and stuff. I have links in the rest of this presentation. But the easiest way to create an agent without learning a code and having a whole bunch of API keys is GPT. And so there's a GPT builder. And so I'm going to play this and you'll see what I'm going to get everybody to do. So this little QR code, you can even do it on your phone, will take you to Maxine Craft. She's a GPT creator. And so if you give her whatever kind of agent you want to create, so maybe you want to create a blog writer or something that writes haikus, or someone that will recommend the best wine pairing for you, or a cocktail mixologist. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be like, work related. What Maxine will do will be she will take your instructions, and she'll ask you a bunch of questions, but then she will write it into a format that is optimized for an LLM to be able to intake and then uh, take in that persona and execute that persona. What you'll see are XML tags, so hashtags, which essentially draw attention to those sections. You will see the use of emojis, which is, again, essentially attention concentrating. The use of markdown bold formatting, again, it creates attention to those particular areas. Instructions, key skill sets that are important for that particular persona, and we'll make those up based on what you said you wanted it to do. It'll identify a very quick workflow of how that agent will act, and then some guidelines and considerations. So it puts it in a nice little structure that you can basically make, your army of agents if you want. It'll make you a picture if you wanted. That one turned out kind of scary. And then you can copy it. And if you have the paid version of GPT, or if you're using Claude, you can put it into projects. You basically click on the thing that says make a GPT. And I've called this one Yanni, the YouTube blogger. You can give it and basically all I did was I copied the thing that it made, I pasted it into the section. In this particular case, I'm going to give it a tool. We're not going to make tools today because it requires some coding, and I actually got one of my devs to do this code. But what Yanni will do is I can put in a YouTube link. It's now calling that function or that tool. And then it's going to summarize that YouTube link into a blog, which is, what we made him or her for. And so again, quick, very quick blog. So this is an example of something a little bit more developed, and this is also in the Notion folder that you'll see, which is Elena Lotz. Get it? Get it? I'll be here all week. So she's a learning assistant, and she basically does the same thing. So you can upload a YouTube video, or say that you want to learn how to fix some plumbing or a washing machine, or fix the gears on your bike, or whatever the topic is. It doesn't need to be AI. If you have a YouTube video, and I know we've all bookmarked those and never watched them because they're an hour long, it will summarize that into a learning session, using the same modality and tools and kind of process that we went through in the previous piece. So here I've given a YouTube video. I've said okay to using the plugin, and it's created the learning outcomes, the abstract, in-depth breakdown, all the lessons that were in that particular YouTube piece. So if you're keen to learn about AI, but you just can't find the time because you're super busy, in Learning Library, there's a tab in there that has all a bunch of YouTubers that make really, really good content about AI. If you don't have time to read that, you can copy the YouTube, whatever, their most recent thing is, drop it into this learning assistant, and it'll give you a quick, like, 2-minute read. And so now we're going to spend like 5 minutes in the breakout exercise. So you can do this on your phone, or you can do it on a second screen if you're watching. And if you're doing it on your computer, just copy this link and stick it into a separate tab, or grab the QR code on your phone, and that should open up a chat GPT with Maxine that's on there. I'll give you a second to be able to grab that. Hope everybody's good. And then we'll actually kind of work through it together. So what you should see is something that looks like this. So it's Maxine, and she'll help you build your own custom GPT. And I was fortunate enough to be at Fab Dolan's session yesterday, and I like Fab is like one of the smartest people that I know, and I loved like what he talked about around codifying expertise. And if you have someone brilliant in your organization, or maybe that brilliant person is you, right? And you want to create a duplicate of you, actually identify like what their workflow is, and then use that to create like a little agent that helps facilitate that work. So you could like if you guys are following along, you could put into here, make me a blogger or a social media person or a mixologist, whatever whatever floats your boat. But equally, if you wanted to spend a little bit more time, and you can think about what you want that person to do and actually go into a bit more detail around their workflow and what makes them brilliant. So here's an example of a project manager. And what I'll do is I'll let me actually go through it and then I'll show you pasted is so I've basically said that this project manager, and you can use a job description, right? Like its functions are understanding the objectives of a project we want to do, find out the dependencies, optimize the sequences of the way things happen, analyze the resources, create the critical path, etc. What are the principles or the competencies that it applies? What are some of the methodologies that I want it to use? What are the competencies in the job description that I would look for? And then like how does it do the thing, right? Like and so from a PM perspective, the first thing that a good PM does is it figures out what we're trying to do. Objective analysis and scope definition. What's the end goal? What are the boundaries of the project? Identify the deliverables, etc. Break down like that structure of the work that needs to be done, figure out the dependencies, because there's other stakeholders that can like actually create success or destroy success, sequence the tasks in a way that makes sense for the timeline you're trying to hit, and then figure out how you allocate the resources and figure out all your risks. So if you spend a couple of minutes like doing this, and you can even ask ChatGPT to figure out like what like is important in whatever task it is you're trying to do, or talk to a specialist or an expert in your organization. And Maxine introduces herself, talks about, gives some ideas and things that you can do, and then asks me some questions. So here, I'm just going to paste in, the expertise that I want to codify into an agent. And so because I've answered all of her questions, she didn't have any follow-up ones. And what she's doing now is basically breaking down all the stuff that I talked about, but fitting it into the character count and container that best fits for GPT, which is basically 8,000 characters. And if you're building co-pilots in Copilot, it also has a similar character count. And so, here's the workflow. Here's what, a LISA task rate needs to do as part of a process. Here's some guidelines for that agent, some constraints, considerations, and reminders and stuff. And you can copy this. You can put it in a Copilot, like Copilot Builder, or you can put it into a GPT, and it's going to ask you if you want like a photo of the individual. So did anybody try it on their phone or their other machine? What did people build? Drop it into the chat if you actually created something through it. Max, did you make something?
Yeah, I was experimenting with it, and I have a bunch of projects on ChatGPT that I use on a daily basis, from professional projects all the way to kind of like personal. I saved it as personal conversations, like personal chats with like AI agents when I need just like an external advisor to bounce my thoughts around. Like, it's pretty impressive. If you set it properly, it's pretty impressive what they can do.
Absolutely. And that's actually a great idea. Like, because sometimes you just want to bounce some stuff off of. I know we all hate focus groups, and particularly creatives, right? But like, you could create like a persona of some of your targets, right? Like, so I've done that before where you can essentially take a target and instead of having it create a workflow like this, like actually have it emulate the 3 to 4 segments and targets that you have, and then you can share concepts and get its reaction, right? So it's a different view of how you can use agents as a way to collaborate and just push your thinking. And so with that, a couple more things, and this will be shared obviously as part of the recording. So if you're trying to get more complex than GPTs, some good platforms for starting to build agents that are low or no code. Agent.ai, which was created by, can't remember his name, but he was the founder of one of the founders of HubSpot. Lindy.ai has some really great automations. N8N.io is sort of a version of Zapier or Make, if any of you have used those automation tools, but that leans more towards agentic structures. I love it. There's another N8N fan in there. Crew AI has become one of the leading platforms for multi-agent systems. So for a while it was like Crew AI, AutoGen were neck and neck. The Crew AI, I think I read somewhere that they're in like, I don't know, 50% of like Fortune 500 organizations as an agentic platform. And then if you want to go like more Python heavy, and you have the skill set, Langflow, I guess like LangChain is more Python. Langflow gives you a bit more of a low code like visual GUI to do that. AutoGen, Crew AI, and Zapier has a whole bunch of like agentic structures that you could use. And so very last, survey question. So if you guys want to scan this. In a couple of minutes. I feel like I need some like Jeopardy music or something. Oh my God, this worked this time. Why did the other ones work? Okay, so um the question, now this is a ranking one, is like when you think about your organizations, what's the most important at an organizational level when you're choosing an AI solution? And the reason I put this in is as you're choosing what to play with, what to learn, what to use, what to introduce into your organization, these are some good guidelines that you want to consider as you start to, you know, get your boss or whoever to let you try AI at work. Love to hear, you know, what other people are think in terms of what's important. And I love that security is at the top. So important. And those absolutely are what we're hearing from clients. So enterprise security, because there are so many interconnections, particularly with, you know, increasing interoperability. There are so many integrations that data safety, data security is 100% at the top. Accuracy and reliability, the user experience is again back to talent, is we all have enough on our plates. We don't need something with 1,000 buttons in order to deal with some simpler stuff. So just to give you a sense, if you're trying to introduce AI as an AI champion or agents into your organization, these are the considerations that you want to have top of mind. And so as we think about our roles and what we do and where to invest our time in this revolution in marketing, 3 things to think about is educate, educate, educate. Start now and study hard, right? So commit to continuous learning. The landscape is evolving and you need to evolve with it. Like, so unless you're retiring tomorrow, you need to evolve with it. Full stop. And a lot of people ask me, what courses should you take? Like, should I take the MIT course? Should I take this course? And my comment always is if you're taking a course, it's probably about 3 months, like dated, based on on the speed at which things are happening. So absolutely take those courses to give you the foundation and the fundamentals, but build. Um, Sign up for free versions, sign up for 20 bucks a month, like just don't get two copies. And create a little video using VO3, or make some images or do something that's outside of your world of work that's a little bit uncomfortable, but use AI. Low risk, you don't need to publish anywhere, but make a thing. And get your hands dirty and make a thing. The thing doesn't need to be an agent, but create with AI and see where it fails, see where it was easy, and you might discover something that's interesting. I mean, I'm the poster child for it. I have 25, 30 years in marketing. I was a CMO. I led Ford of Canada's WPP agencies, but I am non-technical. I'm a really good manager of people. Never learned to code, and became really good at prompt engineering by joining a bunch of Discord communities, and some Reddit groups and that sort of thing, and discovered that it was actually pretty good at prompt engineering. Experiment. Start small. Start now. If you haven't started now, start after you leave this webinar. And then innovate. Don't use AI just to optimize those existing processes. Absolutely, productivity, efficiency, all that is very important. Imagine totally new possibilities that you can create. And I'm going to leave you with one parting thought and 10 minutes of questions is we're all a little scared, right? Like, this is crazy shit. Like, who could have ever said that on June 12th, 2025, that the things that we are seeing are happening now? And there are storms that we cannot imagine, in terms of the changes that it will create. But there are also incredible opportunities that we can't imagine. And we are all writing history because this is a momentous time in technology and humanity. What story will you create? And that's it. And I made a cute little thing of me waving using Kling 2.0 because VO3 wasn't out yet. So love to connect. And any questions? I know I figured out how to stop screen sharing when I got rid of the video thing up there. So
Yep, Arman, you can use your microphone. You can unmute yourself and speak. Please go ahead.
Hi.
hey,
So, I first of all, amazing presentation. Really loved it. I was honestly, you're the only person who's like clearly on top of everything. Like you're the only one who's mentioned VO3 Pro, for instance, that came out just a couple of days ago. So really, really, really inspiring. My question is, how have you in your work? I know you work for an AI platform, and thus this may be a moot question. How have you been getting people on board with AI in your private life, in your professional career? What has been your sort of go-to tactics for selling people on this? Has it been like an example project? Has it been like just a story you're telling? I'm curious.
So I don't sell AI. I solve problems. And so
Yeah.
Agentive is my company. It has two parts. I have 200 freelancers that do human stuff. And I created the first 100 agents, and we now have developers that are creating multi-agent structures and that sort of thing. And honestly, like I created because I knew in 2023, and that's how long I've been building, is I needed to pivot my company because I had people doing people stuff, and I saw GPT 4.0 and thought, holy shit, like is there a best before date above my head? And I'm not ready to retire, and I will never have a job ever again because I left corporate in 2016 because I decided I didn't like people anymore. So I had no choice but to become an entrepreneur. So that was what instigated me to learn prompt engineering and look at new modalities to shift the nature of my agency. And we're fully hybrid. Everybody has access to 100 bots. They help build the bots, etc. And so our clients include the Vector Institute, the Stock Exchange, Sunwing, MetaV, which is a pretty big insurance company, Husky Technologies, and a whole bunch of others, and some few in the US. Um, and every time I meet with organizations, they're like, "Oh my God, okay, like we just got a head count cut. We lost 10% of our people. I've lost 25% in operating costs. I have this pain point. I'm scared. This AI thing is happening and we barely have Copilot." And so our conversations don't begin with, "Hey, I got 100 agents and they do this thing." My conversations begin with, what where are the aspirins that can solve problems in your workflow, and then we talk about it, and sometimes my solution's the right thing, sometimes I recommend a different solution because agents might not be the thing. So that's really how, like, we've ended up in a lot of organizations, is we solve problems. We don't sell AI, we solve problems.
I really appreciate that. That's awesome. I also work as a freelance consultant trying to get like smaller businesses into with AI. So I was asking basically how do you frame your what you're offering, and I think that's a great way of putting it. Just like, yeah, what do you need fixed? What do you want help with? Let's see what AI can do to help you with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Awesome. Thank you so
sometimes
much.
it just starts, if that's what you do, Armin, is like, it's education. So, if you come in and you've got a deck and, something like what I just presented, and this is what's happening, because everybody wants that education, but we're all freaking busy with, the to-do list that is, overflowing in an inbox that will never hit zero, will never hit 500, much less zero, right? And how do you take a little bit of that pain away? Because as marketers, the age-old problem, whether you're TD Bank or your Jim and Tom's Laundromat, is you never have enough resources or time. And AI is the thing that is incredibly well poised to help that.
For sure, for sure. It's the 10x for everything, and that
Absolutely.
really is the benefit. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Any more questions in the room? If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself.
I've got a quick one, Max. This is a bit of a tough question because you know me, I love asking tough questions.
Go ahead.
I guess the fear is real.
Yeah.
And I think right now a lot of people are feeling like their fears are being discounted and not being taken seriously, because there is such a push to promote this technology. The speed is something that humans are not used to. There may be a small group of people who are used to operating at this speed, but the majority of people, humans, are not. My question specifically is, as an expert in my field, or anyone else who is an expert in their field, it has taken us our life to become experts. Why would we give our expertise away for free? What is the incentive for doing that?
Explain to me what you mean by giving away your expertise for free.
Well, for example, creating an agent that can do what I do and can replicate the processes that it's taken me 25 years to learn, to do my job. Why would I share that information without any intellectual property compensation on that? That's what's happening right now in a lot of industries, right? Is that we are essentially stealing people's experience and knowledge and packaging it up using technology and then reselling it back to people. But that original knowledge is being acquired free of charge. So how do we, as experts, I understand why the industry wants this to move forward, but the people who hold the knowledge right now, are saying, why am I giving my knowledge away for free to educate this technology?
Absolutely. So a couple of things there, and some stuff that, like, just want to clarify. So the answer to that question, I really strongly recommend that you watch that video by Ethan Mollick, and I can give it to Max and he can put it on the site or whatever, because it actually hits that question right on the head, right? Why should I use it? Why should I give it away? So a couple of things, and let me unpack that. So the first is giving it for training. Not all access points are equal. So if you put something into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever at the $0 or $20 version, you are absolutely using it to train the AI. Even though you're putting in $20, you are the product, just like Facebook. If you were using the enterprise version or the API, which is more expensive and you're using tokens, that is not going into training. And if you gave away your digital twin for free, absolutely, you've just given away your expertise. If you use that digital twin using a platform, but you use it for yourself, so now you're able to 100x the things that you're doing because you got a great first draft that you can amplify, then you've actually amplified your impact, right? So, and like if I can ask a question, on any given day, do you love all 100 things and 100 tasks that you did that day?
Of course not.
Every single one.
No, of course not.
Yeah, none of us do. Like I've heard a range from anything from 30% to 60%. My answer to the person at 60% is you should start looking for a new job. But fully 25 to 30% of our work, we did not jump out of bed. So could you create an agent that has nothing to do with your expertise that helps you shorten those ones so that you can actually focus on more of the stuff that you love to do, right? So the application of AI isn't binary, and the nature of the agents that you create aren't binary either. But the thing that we all need to consider is A, Pandora is out of the box. And B, how do we amplify our genius using the tools that everybody has available? Because this stuff is free in order to stand out if we're not retiring in the next 3 months.
Yeah, and I get that. I get the I think the automation of mundane tasks is only level 1 of AI. And that is how you're going to get adoption, is that everyone's going to say, I don't want to do mundane tasks. But as we all know, it's learning, it's growing, it's being able to surpass that level of function. So I don't think level 1 is what we're afraid of. Of course, all of us want the mundane tasks taken away. I think it's the next levels that haven't come yet. Right now, we're still at level 1. Everybody, well, they've come, but not in the hands of the everyday user. So I think that's where the fear is coming from.
100%. And it's visceral and it's real, because unlike like a MarTech product, like I wasn't scared about my identity when Salesforce came out or Marketo, right? This basically does a lot of the stuff that I do. And the key thing is when level 2 and level 3 come, because they will come, because most of us work for profit-driven organizations, how do we ensure that we as experts have optionality?
Yep. Great presentation, by the way. I really enjoyed it.
I love hard questions, so I'm really glad that you asked it.
All right. Thank you so much, Roberta, and thank you, Karla. We are at time, so we will have to wrap it up. Once again, thank you, Karla, for such an inspiring session. It's always great to see the amazing work your team is doing and you leading the way. And I appreciate the in-depth of real-world examples and practical insights you brought into this workshop. I will most certainly have to rewatch it again to absorb all the insights, all the interesting tools that you demonstrated and shared with us today. Was wealth of knowledge. And frankly, all week we've been talking about the future of marketing and the very real anxiety people feel about job security and staying relevant. I mean, my personal opinion, your story is such a powerful example of how to reinvent yourself and lead the way forward in the new world. So thank you for this fantastic professional and personal story and a truly inspiring workshop.
Thank you.
Now, to all our guests, I'm going just to remind you, and well, once again, thank you for staying with us for one more day. As Marketing Leadership Week wrap-ups tomorrow, don't miss our final session, an inspiring fireside chat with two of Canada's most respected marketing and business minds, David Kincaid, founder and managing partner of Level 5 Strategy, and Ken Wong, Professor Emeritus of Marketing, School of Business of Queen's University and a Doctor of Philosophy from Harvard Business School. The discussion will be moderated by amazing Tina Portillo, our past president of AMA Toronto chapter and the CEO of TLMP Marketing Incorporation, who builds the community of executive leaders interested in leading in the world of digital opportunities and digital transformation. So Friday, tomorrow, June 14th, we'll meet again at 10:30 a.m. in the morning for the last, but most certainly not least session. Thank you so much. Thank you for staying all the way till the end with us, and have a great rest of the day.